So it's Labor Day weekend, and I just had some friends over who insisted on coming by, dearest of friends, and I did it in a very social distanced way. I mean, a friend had called earlier who I hadn't seen in years, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I'm not having any visitors come over because of the pandemic. But I relented with this other group of friends because I have been in touch with them every day, and I know they try as best as they can to do what Dr. Fauci says, which of course is different from what the president says, different from what the CDC says. But even giving myself permission to sit 10 feet apart outdoors in the heat wearing a mask and having a conversation with my closest of friends, people who I hadn't seen face to face in the longest of time, felt so self-indulgent. I live in a big house with a big yard. My husband and I have incredibly wonderful careers and jobs that allow us to work from home. We have the means to not have to be forced to leave this house. Literally, we could stay in this house for another 6 months, just as we have, with very, very, very few, and I mean less than 5 times combined, except for the daily evening walks since mid-March. Having the ability to stay at home, having the ability to decide not even to fractionally add to our collective risk is my way of thinking myself to be not an individual, but a multi-person organism called a community. So if you're poor and you have no choice but to bag groceries or to stock shelves, because that's the only way you get to feed your family, pay your rent. If you don't have a savings account that you can pull from, if you're a doctor, a nurse, a health care provider who must go to work because you think about the greater good, then that part, that limb, if you will, of this multifaceted organism should take that very measured risk by wearing PPE, by wearing masks and going outside. But I just feel it to be so self-indulgent for a community that does all sorts of things like go on fasts, diet, just do all sorts of things to test your resolve, run marathons, things that you do without doing it for the greater good, things that you do just to test your mettle, your will, right? A community of individuals that time and time again understands that it's okay to sacrifice a little. The entire Lent in Christianity is built around that, but just a little sacrifice just to do that. I don't know, it just feels so self-indulgent and so inconsiderate for anyone to not take this moment and treat it as the extreme issue that it is, a moment where we don't even know everything about this pandemic, how it infects, how it impacts. It's a novel virus, guys. So as I sit here and I draw 18 dead people who died in the last 24 hours, today on the Saturday of Labor Day, totally understanding that 2 weeks from today, this number is going to escalate because people felt that they could go to barbecues, that they could go out, that the numbers were down, that they were tired of staying at home. People who didn't have to leave but just felt that they psychologically, emotionally needed a break. The consequence of these boatings, these outings today means that when I return here in just 2 weeks, this page is going to be filled with people. Maybe 3 weeks. Filled with grandmothers, older people, people who have high blood pressure, people who were infected by asymptomatic grandchildren and sons and daughters and friends. And again, I get it if you're a health worker and you have to go and you have to take a measured risk. But just to go out into the world, just to try to normalize things at a time where more than 6 million Americans have been infected, at a time where 180,000 have died, and at a time where these 18 corpses that families are still trying to figure out how to bury, corpses that they weren't next to as they took their last breaths. As these 18 corpses add to the 2,650 Miami-Dade County residents who have died to date. I just think we need to sacrifice a little more today to lessen the suffering tomorrow. And I know I sound really extreme. A lot of my friends and family members think that I am over the top and extreme because they think of my actions as just self-preservation, when instead of thinking of each and every one of us as part of this large organism, and parts of it have to take less risks so that those that must can take greater risk to avoid death from happening. And that is the crux of this virus in our community when there is such a lack of sense of community.